From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Trying to stave off a deadly virus.
We can do a few things to prevent or reduce the risk hazard.
See what poultry producers are doing to try and cut their flock's risk for avian flu. As snow finally falls in Iowa, other parts of the country are worried about too much moisture.
Storms can bring sudden and severe conditions that make staying back home extremely risky.
As ag experts paint a dire picture about the farm economy.
Input costs rose during a period of high commodity prices and have not yet returned to levels to allow family farmers to be profitable.
Are there any hopeful signs on the horizon? Right now on AgDay.
AgDay is brought to you by Pioneer. Pioneer brand corn has game-winning statistics like a 10 bushel per acre yield advantage. Pioneer brand corn, your best year starts here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Before this year's crop is even planted, some economists are already predicting this will be another year with margins at or below break even. The House Ag Committee holding a hearing this week entitled Examining the Economic Crisis in Farm Country. AgDay's Michelle Rook listening in on that hearing, and Michelle, farmers and forecasters alike delivered some tough news to the committee.
That's right, Clinton. Both House Ag Committee members and witnesses at the hearing say U.S. agriculture is on the verge of a farm crisis, as net farm income has dropped nearly 25% from the record high of $198 billion in 2022. They outlined the contributing factors, including lower commodity prices and high input costs, and the need for a new farm bill to provide a safety net.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Witnesses at the House Ag Committee hearing on the farm economy painted a bleak picture for U.S. agriculture.
Since 2022, and excluding government payments, U.S. inflation-adjusted net farm income has fallen by $43 billion, or 26%, to $138 billion in 2025.
Newton also described a tale of two farm economies.
Over the last 3 years, inflation-adjusted net cash farm income for corn and soybean farm families has dropped by 45% to their lowest levels in a decade and a half. Meanwhile, record cattle prices and higher milk prices have contributed to higher levels of income for those farm families.
He says USDA's outlook for farm income in 2025 is slightly better than 2024, but it's only because of government assistance.
When including the ad hoc federal support, U.S. inflation-adjusted net farm income is projected at $180 billion, up 26% from last year. I know firsthand, however, that farmers would rather get their returns from the market.
As such, House Ag Chair G.T. Thompson expressed his urgency for getting the $30 billion of ad hoc and market assistance passed by Congress out to farmers. Witnesses say the economic downturn is partially a result of lower crop prices.
Since crop prices peaked in 2022, they have taken a nosedive. Corn and wheat are down 37%, soybeans down 28%, and cotton down 22%.
But another factor is inflation and input costs, which were at a record level of $462 billion in 2022 and have persisted.
Input costs rose during a period of high commodity prices and have not yet returned to levels to allow family farmers to be profitable.
Witnesses also emphasized the lack of new international markets, and the concern is the trade deficit could continue with a negative impact of tariffs on trade. Chairman Thompson says all this supports his urgency to secure a new farm bill because even crop insurance alone isn't enough of a safety net.
This won't by any means make producers whole, but a bolstered and properly functioning safety net will help them to weather the storm.
I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Here's something producers in Iowa have been looking for. Finally, some measurable snow. Iowa Environmental Mesonet sharing the totals as of yesterday morning with areas in the southern and eastern part of the state seeing the most. Now, the state has seen one of the least snowiest winters in more than 130 years. That's not good news for drought conditions in the state, with more than 62% of the state in some sort of dryness or drought. We're also keeping a watch on Southern California, where the most significant storm in more than a year is coming. And as Laura Geary reports, it's stoking fears about debris flows and mudslides.
I think everybody needs to be aware and ready.
Ready for the massive third wave of a powerful winter blitz that's brought snow, ice, rain, flash flooding, and power outages to much of the central and eastern U.S. since Tuesday. In a matter of hours, those same conditions are expected to envelop most of the western half of the nation through Saturday. And in Southern California, that poses an especially dangerous threat.
The whole hillside behind me has been denuded from the fire, and it already slid a little bit, and now we're preparing that it's going to slide a whole bunch more.
Residents in fire-scarred areas around Los Angeles County are bracing for the worst. Many are sandbagging and shoring up gaps in plastic barriers.
If you are living in a location where there is a slope behind your house and it is burned, we want to hear from you.
LA County officials today urging those in potential mudslide zones to reach out so crews can assess risk and install temporary debris flow barriers before the storm hits. For weeks, the state has been cleaning and expanding stormwater and debris drainage systems along with other preparations, and evacuation orders have been issued in high-risk areas.
Storms can bring sudden and severe conditions that make staying back home extremely risky.
Damaging high wind gusts are also expected.
Make sure your flashlights have good batteries in them, and check your generators and your pumps that they're all working. And they usually recommend 3-day supply of food and water for your family.
I'm Laura Aguirre reporting for AgDay.
And on the backside of these systems is an Arctic blast. Meteorologist Jack Van Meter joins us with the latest on that.
As we can see, for today, temperatures at least is going to be fairly seasonable. As we can see, just a normal meandering pattern with our jet stream. Just have a bit of troughing, especially up to the north, and then some ridging obviously out to our west. But that being said, a big change is coming into the forecast, especially this weekend. Cold weather will be returning to the states in the form of another Arctic front. As I play this forward, we can see that this ridge makes the head trough go all the way out to the Atlantic Ocean. But as we can see, another trough is going to be moving in and deepening for the weekend. So we're looking at another situation where down south, we're talking parts of Dixie Alley and the southwest might be getting some strong to severe storms. And for parts of the northwest and especially parts right around the Great Lakes, could be looking at another shot of cold air and snow. And some good advice from Iowa State Police Trooper DeVault. He says those tire tracks on the roadway are 100% ice. He says that while the roadways may be clear of snow, as traffic passes, the light dusty snow heats up under the tires just enough to melt and refreeze in the bitter cold temperatures. He adds to leave it off cruise control and to stay safe. I'll have more on your forecast in a little bit.
An update on a story we've been following. Mexican cattle are once again being exported into the U.S. Reuters sharing this video of cattle crossing over the U.S.-Mexico border at Ciudad Juarez. The president of the Regional Livestock Union of Chihuahua telling the news agency he anticipates U.S. authorities will gradually increase the permitted number of cattle up from the current 500. As we've reported, last November, a Mexican official notified USDA about the detection of New World screwworm, a disease of livestock that can affect humans. The discovery triggered a suspension in Mexican cattle exports to its northern neighbor. Well, it's an ugly day for soybean markets, but corn and cattle fought to stay in the positive. We'll talk about Wednesday's trade next. And later, we've talked a lot about avian flu and its impact on egg prices. We'll hear from farmers in New York today in the country.
AgDay is sponsored by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator steel closing wheels, perfected in conventional, excels in no-till. Order 12 to 16 rows today and qualify for free shipping or 20% off an end zone moisture management package.
Cattle and corn made gains midweek, while soybeans posted some losses. AgDay's Michelle Rook is back with more on where things could be heading next in Markets Now.
Corn and hogs ended higher on Wednesday with soybeans lower, and Mike Miner is back to kind of dissect all this. And Mike, let's talk about the corn market. Actually went to the plus side. Was that all fun buying, you think?
A decent amount. I think we've seen really choppy trade out of the corn market anyways, having to make a decision around this $5 area. But I think the funds have been piling in here for quite some time, probably since last summer. We've seen improved fundamentals since then, but on days like today, days like yesterday, I would feel like fund money flow is finding its way into commodities, especially with good balance sheets. So corn makes sense.
Soybeans went the other direction in a big way. So are we starting to see some South American harvest and hedge pressure?
I would sure think so. At first, I feel like the South American harvest wasn't being fully appreciated in the marketplace because, one, remember we had a pretty late start to planting to begin with there, and we've got a bigger crop, higher moisture. We had some quality problems to start off with, some halted shipments into China, for example, right away for their export market. So seeing a little bit of a slow pace to harvest at the beginning made sense for where their planning was. And now I think, as they're over that 25% harvested hump, now we're kind of getting into the point where we're really going to start to see U.S. basis levels trickle lower, which we've seen over the past few weeks, and see more exports out of South America.
And hogs are kind of the bright spot, some new highs here being scored. And is that fundamentally being pushed, or are the funds driving that one too?
No, absolutely. I think it's mainly fundamentals at this point. You've kind of got all cylinders running right now on the hogs. I mean, demand has been fantastic. Cash, you're not getting yourself in trouble at all. I think just from a fundamental perspective, you couldn't ask for much more out of this hog market. So we'll see. I've got a few troubles fundamentally when I start digesting or dissecting some of the cutouts and where those primals are. There might be some things to look at going forward to see, can we really run?
Thanks so much for your analysis. Mike Miner with Professional Ag Marketing. We'll have more Ag Day coming up. Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rourke on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
As we can see from our radar image later on this morning, we're looking at two very distinct systems. The one to our east, as we can see, going to be dealing with a bit of everything. Got snow to our north that's actually pushing up into Canada, but for much of the country, we're looking at some rain chances, and that's going to continue through much of the morning and actually to right around the noontime hour for our East Coast friends. Going out west, though, we're looking at an actual atmospheric river that is coming ashore on California and is actually causing a lot of problems, especially down south where they had the wildfires just a month ago. With that system, though, it is going to push on a lot of energy in the atmosphere. And as we can see for our higher elevations, as soon as a lot of that rain and snow hit the mountains, and before stuff, we're looking at a lot of mountain snow for parts of our southern Rocky Mountain states, and a lot of that energy is going to be carried on through much of the plains and actually start to pick up. And remember that system I was talking about for the weekend? Yeah, we're watching it start to take form just on Saturday. As we can see, a lot of moisture from the Gulf moving up to the north. That's meaning some really, really cold air to our north, and that cold air is going to be the main talker going into next week. As I put this in motion, we can see another very similar situation to what we're actually dealing with today will take fold. Stronger storms to our south and some snow potential and ice potential to our north. Here's our temperatures for this afternoon. This is obviously going to be for today. Again, somewhat seasonable. Make sure you're paying close attention to the forecast going into the weekend. Watertown, New York, 38 degrees, low of 13 degrees. Sacred Heart, Minnesota, 8 degrees and a low of -2 degrees. And finally, Kyle, South Dakota, mostly sunny, 31-21.
Beef export value climbed last year. Final numbers are in from the U.S. Meat Export Federation. Now, it says value climbed 5% from 2023 to $10.45 billion. That equates to a value per head of fed slaughter reaching $415. Now, for the full year, beef exports were 1.29 million metric tons. That's down 0.5% year over year. Officials for the U.S. Meat Export Federation say considering the headwinds in the large Asian markets in the first half of the year and challenges on the supply side, beef exports exceeded expectations in 2024. One of the world's largest cattle stockyards is now up for sale. The Oklahoma National Stockyards is on the market right now for $27 million. The property encompasses 102 acres and is about 3 miles away from downtown Oklahoma City. It was founded in 1910 and has played a critical role in setting national cattle prices. Now, local news reports say the current owners are hoping a buyer will continue to use the facility for cattle, but also say the land could be attractive for redevelopment. Jerry Reynolds, the stockyard's president, says the number of cattle using the facility has fallen about 20% over the past 2 years. Officials say the same family has owned it since the beginning, but Reynolds says the younger generations are not interested in overseeing the 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week operation. From cattle to poultry, there's always plenty to manage when it comes to livestock. Up next, how poultry farmers are faring given the challenges of avian flu in New York State. That story in the country. We told you about this earlier this week. Georgia lifting a suspension of poultry activities. It comes after extensive avian flu testing found no additional cases. Meanwhile, some poultry markets in New York remain shut down following cases there. Jason Carroll spoke to farmers about how this is impacting their business.
So these are our 2-year-old birds that are out here in a winter house, and they're venturing outside today.
Farmers like Tom Warren have been keeping a more watchful eye on their chickens these days.
We'll just have to see what happens.
Okay.
That's kind of what we're going to do.
All right.
And hope for the best.
Warren owns Stone and Thistle Farm, a small farm located in the foothills of the Catskill Mountains, more than a 3-hour drive from New York City. But with the threat of avian flu, the city seems closer than ever. New York's governor temporarily shut down live poultry markets in New York City, Long Island, and Westchester County as a precautionary measure after several cases of bird flu were recently discovered.
Over the last week, inspectors have detected 7 cases of bird flu in poultry.
Cases of bird flu were also found at the Queen Zoo, and possible cases are under investigation at the Bronx Zoo. Last month, a commercial duck farm in Long Island was forced to euthanize more than 100,000 ducks after a bird flu outbreak hit the facility to prevent further spread. Wild birds are the likely source of the avian flu on farms. It's a big concern for small farmers, such as Warren, whose livestock and poultry are partially raised outside, where they have free range to roam.
We just hope, for us, it's mostly we can do a few things to prevent or reduce the risk hazard.
What can you do?
Well, like I said, we keep our feeders indoors, so that deters wild birds from coming down into the place.
You're very pragmatic about the whole thing.
Getting agitated about it isn't going to benefit me or the chickens or the farm business. So we take as many precautions as we can.
Precautions such as no one permitted on the farm if they've been to another farm, own a bird, or have had contact with birds is why we did Daniel Bry's interview over Zoom.
You can't see it, smell it, or, you have no idea where the bird flu is until it's too late. Yes, I am afraid.
Bry is a third-generation poultry farmer who has dodged avian flu outbreaks in 2014 and 2022. He says an outbreak could be financially devastating for small farms like his and Warren's.
It's like a death sentence. You lose your cut, you don't have any eggs for 3 to 4 months at least. It's a nightmare, but it basically puts you out of business, a smaller farm.
Is that something that you could survive if you had to shut down for that period?
Yeah, I'm going to survive. It's the chickens that aren't going to survive. But no, but it would be difficult. It would hurt our business astronomically.
His message to consumers during all this, poultry and eggs remain safe when prepared properly.
Here, would you like to hold her?
No.
No?
Warren says his eggs and chickens are selling, and his well-trained dogs help keep the wild birds at bay for now.
It's probably unlikely that we would contract it, but it's still a crapshoot. I mean, there's a limit to what we can do to control it.
What do you think your odds are?
I'm not much of a betting man, so
Okay.
I have no idea what our odds are. I mean, we've managed to get through a couple of years with avian influenza around without any problems, and we kind of just hope that we'll make it through a couple more years, and then I'm going to retire.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Rivas. Have a great day.